Hey guys, Stabcast on the scientific revolution. So we're talking about the scientific revolution today. The question we have to answer is, how is the scientific revolution a major turning point in history? And as you guys remember, revolutions are times in history when things change, really big changes in history. Right? They don't necessarily have to be a war. Anything that brings about a change is a revolution. So let's see how there was a scientific revolution. Alright, these three guys are pretty much single-handedly responsible for the scientific revolution. That is Galileo in the middle, that's Copernicus on the left-hand side, and Johann Kepler on the right. And those guys are really going to do work that brings about a big change in history, major changes, and a huge shift in society. Alright, so where does modern science start? And by modern science, I mean science in the time of the scientific revolution. Well, there's the view that comes in the Middle Ages, and that is going to be based on the work of Aristotle and Ptolemy. Aristotle and Ptolemy are around at the time of the ancient Greeks, and they say that the Earth is the center of the universe and that everything moves around it. And this is known as the geocentric theory. Geo meaning Earth, centric meaning center, theory meaning, hey, we had an idea. The church is going to take this idea and run with it, the Catholic Church. And they're going to say that God places Earth at the center of the universe because Earth is a special place, because God created it. So this is a little diagram of the geocentric theory. If you take a look at it, you can see there, right in the middle, the big blue dot, that is the Earth. And everything else is going around it. And you can kind of see the suns there. Also, after the moon and Mercury and Venus, they may not be right. Alright? So again, before the scientific revolution, any text from the Greeks and the Romans are the highest accepted form of knowledge. Alright? The only thing that carries more weight is the Bible. Alright? So it's basically Bible, God's word, and the words of the Greeks and the Romans. Here's the problem. Sometimes the Greeks and the Romans are wrong. Woo-hoo. Alright, now we're going to have a turning point. Special effects. Nice. Alright, and that turning point is going to be the scientific revolution. Alright, there is a new way of thinking, and it's going to be based upon a willingness to question accepted beliefs, which for the time is a pretty big deal because we're talking about Aristotle, Ptolemy, and the church. Alright, and it's a new way of thinking based on careful observations, not just on superstition or what you read in the Bible or what someone said they read in the Bible. This is going to be really about observing the world around and seeing what's going on and trying to figure out how things work based on that. Alright, so what's going to lead to this? Because it's not just going to happen all of a sudden. People are going to have this idea. Alright, it's going to come from somewhere. Alright, the places it's going to come from are Muslim texts. The universities in Europe have access to all these texts from Muslim scholars, and they're going to offer classes on math, astronomy, and physics, and they're going to be based on these texts. And guess what? Those texts are based on what we would now know as science. The other problem is, like I said, the Greeks and the Romans a lot of times were wrong. Yeah, a lot of times they don't necessarily agree. So they would tell you, you want to know how the world works, just read Aristotle and Ptolemy. Well, there are things that Aristotle and Ptolemy disagree about. So how could they both be right? They can't. Alright. Also, there's going to be more and more exploration. Alright, and as that exploration goes on, people are going to realize, hey, there's more out there than we were originally told. There's new people, there's new animals. I mean, at this point, we're going to be exploring the Americas, so there's going to be, a group of people called the Indians who weren't necessarily, known to be around before that. So obviously there's going to be some problems. Also, some observations that people are doing do not necessarily match these ancient beliefs. It's going to be a problem. People are going to want to know the truth, and they're going to find it. Okay, so the first thing they go after is that geocentric model, the geocentric theory that the Earth is at the center. And they're going to be different scientists who are going to try to figure out how the universe really works. So the first person is Copernicus. Now Copernicus spends a lot of time doing this. Just looking up at the sky. And he determines based upon that the Earth actually moves around the sun. He also needed a neck brace. Too much looking around. Anyway, Kepler is going to build upon his work, and he's going to use math to prove the planets move around the sun. Now, how exactly it is that he does this? Oops. I have no idea. I'm not Kepler, and I'm not good at math. Ask Miss Resnick. So you have Copernicus, then you have Kepler, and then you have Galileo. And Galileo does various different scientific experiments, and he is actually going to not only prove that the planets move around the sun, he disproves Aristotle's theory and supports Copernicus. The church loses its mind. And they put Galileo on trial in 1633. He's actually on trial a couple times. The last one's in 1633. And the church is going to put him on trial for being a heretic, for going against their authority and speaking out against the church. They don't want Galileo to be the first one questioning them and getting away with it. So they put him on trial. They make him recant or take back all of his statements that the Earth is not the center of the universe. And they put him on house arrest. And they basically send him back to his house in Florence, which is pretty much a castle and has a really nice view. So it's not like the end of the world. But Galileo's not really allowed to say any of those things, despite the fact that he's right. Now, having said that, in case you were wondering, it's pretty obvious now that that's not the truth. The Earth is not really the center. We know that scientifically. Has the church done anything? Well, yeah. In 1992, about 360 years later, the church officially issued an apology to Galileo. So, in case you were wondering, the church might hold a little bit of a grudge. It took them 300 years to acknowledge that Galileo was right and they shouldn't have chucked him in his castle. Alright. These scientists are going to use the scientific method. You guys learned about that last year in Cropsy's class when you did labs and stuff like that. And this is a way of getting information and testing ideas, alright? So you have a problem and a question that you have to be answered. You make a hypothesis. You test it through experiment. Record your observations. Blah, 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 blah. Draw a conclusion. That's how the scientific method works. And that's going to be come up with by a guy named Francis Bacon. I agree, Francis. That is a lot of bacon, and it is delicious. Anyway, Francis Bacon believes that you can gather information through observation and experience, make conclusions. This idea is known as empiricism, aka the scientific method. He's not the only person who's going to be involved in this. Another guy is a guy named René Descartes. He's not big on experiments. He's big on using math and logic to find things out. And he was also famous for the phrase, "I think, therefore I am." And you can see here he thinks he's smarter than everyone, therefore he is. Okay, well, whatever you say, René. Then you have Sir Isaac Newton. And I have a present for Sir Isaac. Isaac, he's going to be the one who proves that the physical laws that govern the heavens and the same laws govern the heavens and the earth. So the same things that happen in space or on Earth also happen in space. And this is known as the law of universal gravitation. Alright, now you might remember the story of the guy who's sitting under the apple tree and it falls and it hits him on the head, and that's how he discovered gravity. Basically, Sir Isaac Newton did this for his life. This was his life's work. What goes up must come down. Alright, I got him a present. It's my daughter's bike helmet. That'll protect you from apples. Alright, so how does the scientific revolution spread? Because it's not going to be a turning point unless it spreads, okay? Well, people are going to create scientific instruments. The microscope's going to be invented, and the microscope's going to be used to reveal that maggots are actually baby insects, not just spontaneous life forms that come out of nowhere, as was thought before and said, in ancient texts. You're also going to have a guy named Galen, who's going to dissect corpses to learn about the human body, and then you have Boyle. Boyle disproves Aristotle's idea that there are 4 elements: earth, fire, air, and water. He also discovers Boyle's law, which is some really complicated chemistry type thing. That's Miss Resnick. So, in summary, medieval scholars have a geocentric view of the universe. These ideas are going to be challenged because of new theories and new exploration. There's going to be new logical methods for gathering data and testing these ideas. Newton's laws of gravity are going to explain the motion of the Earth and the universe. And then new tools, methods, etc. are going to lead to better understanding of the body and of matter. Okay? And that's pretty much it for the Stavcast. I'm going to go maybe get some apples. I don't know, this doesn't really fit. Well, that's that. Have a nice day. Bye.